What is going on, guys? This is going to be a good one. I'm very excited to be recorded. So it is a very hot evening here as I film this in Boston, Massachusetts. Got my partner Colin with me. Colin, what's going
What's
on?
going on, guys? How you guys doing?
Colin's out in San Diego, so he won the weather lottery between the two of us. But today we're going to go ahead and cover really some key metrics that we track, not only for our company, but for all the clinics that we work with. So we're going to go over really which ones you need to focus on when running meta ads. We'll go over which ones matter the most and which ones are a little bit more on the vanity side of things, but still good to have in the back of your mind. So we'll take it away here, Colin. Now, I believe CAC is the first one. Yes, good old CAC. So for those of you who are not familiar with CAC, that stands for customer acquisition cost. So this is how much you are paying to acquire customers. So you'll see this equation right here. It's total ad spend divided by customers acquired. So let's say you spent $1,000 on ads in the month of June as we're recording this, and you got 5 patients in the door. Your CAC would be $200. 1,000 divided by 5. So it costs you $200 to acquire one customer. Now, Colin, I guess in terms of CAC, like, where would you say, I know how I feel about it, I think I know you feel about it too, but where would you say this ranks in terms of importance just when it comes to metric tracking and why this matters?
I would say it's probably top three, if not top two. You know what I mean? This is the main thing that you always want to look out for. Obviously, there's some more metrics that fall into play, like lifetime value, can help the CAC and all of that stuff. But this is really the foundation of,
Yep.
do I have a good campaign or not? This is, what determines return on ad spend. This is really what determines if you have a high CAC, you're not going to keep putting money back into ads, right? You're going to try and lower that CAC. You're going to figure out what you can do.
I mean, it's so important because you need this allows you to understand if you actually have a profitable campaign or not. And we'll get into like lifetime value and that's, so important. But if your CAC is just way too high, like this is a literal cost. And with this number, whether it's good or bad, once you have that data on it, you should be able to. This is the core and foundation for all financial modeling you do for your business from an advertising perspective. Is this metric here? So something you should always be tracking. And again, the lower the better. Of course, it depends on what it is you're selling, what your LTV is, things like that. So there's all sorts of other metrics and things that go into play here. But yeah, I agree. This is the foundation of everything.
Yeah,
So
this is what makes you as the marketer or as the business owner be able to start doing some math. Okay, I can put 200, 300, $400 in and actually get a patient out. Now, how can I stack that times 10, right?
yeah.
Yep.
And what's interesting is like you can, and again, this is why we'll get into lifetime value here, but your CAC can still be more than what you get from that first payment. So let's say, you're charging $399 for, that first visitation for like GLPs, for example, and it costs $500 to acquire that customer. On paper, that's bad. It's like, oh shoot, I just lost $100. We're turning ads off now. But, realistically, that patient's coming back the next month, maybe a month after, maybe they lose the weight, gain it back again. Maybe they have friends, family. So again, you need to be thinking long-term with these metrics. Another important note.
100%. And also with, implementing some higher ticket stuff or 4-week, 6-week, 12-week packages, that can help, kind of soften the customer acquisition costs in total.
Yes. Yeah. If you have a high ticket, bulk treatment, whether it's for like 3 months of anything, right? GLPs, peptides, or even 6 months, 12 months, again, then if you just have one customer, you're golden. So good point there. I missed that.
Yep.
100%.
Yep. So this next
Cost
one,
per lead. Uh-oh. This is this is one we go back and forth on. So Colin, if you want to kick off, good old CPL. Do you
yeah.
want to explain what it is first and foremost, just for anyone who may not be as technical?
Yeah, so this is the cost per lead. This is the cost it is for somebody to pretty much opt into your funnel or to take action on buying a direct to cart item or coming into your clinic. That would be more cost per showed appointment, but that's what it would be, right? Cost per lead.
Yeah.
And really, like you kind of said, this is a vanity metric in some cases. It does come into play. Obviously, we don't want the highest cost per lead. But if you're getting $2 leads and, like I'm going to keep this going in these videos. If they're a donkey, right? Like not a good lead. If they're not a good lead and they're just a tire kicker, they're never going to purchase anything, but you're very excited that you're getting $2 to $15 leads. That's great, but who's going to purchase, right?
So sometimes honestly, that's a great point you just brought up. Like, if you're a clinic out there and you're getting $5 leads, I don't care if you're Hims or whoever, something is probably wrong with your campaign. I don't know what, but it should not be that cheap, and that's a great point. You're going to get donkeys. Absolutely. Yep. And we'll keep using that term here. But so Colin, what would you say is like a good standard cost per lead just in the industry? Obviously, there might be some GLP-1 clinics watching. There might be some more like the hormone side of things. But just from the data we've collected, like what would you say is a good KPI for the average clinic owner watching this year to really track and like try and get with cost per lead?
I would say with most of our clinics, it kind of ranges in terms of how much filtering you're doing throughout the process of the funnel.
That's a great point.
Yeah, so if it's a frictionless funnel and you're kind of just asking for name, email, phone number, and then they're booking an appointment with either somebody on your sales team or yourself as the nurse practitioner or the provider, then you can kind of get a lower cost per lead just because there's no friction. You're not having them answer 20 questions. You're answering that on the phone call. So that can range anywhere from, we've seen as low as, $20 to $200 in some cases.
Yeah.
But that can turn around and you can upsell them on a 16-week GLP-1 package or TRT in total. So that'll help with the cost per lead there.
Yeah. One thing I want to bring up, well top of mind, is very important, as I think you would agree. Like, Colin, I mean, if someone's getting $200 leads and their campaign is still profitable, like how much would you say cost per lead matters in that situation?
None. As long as you can keep it where it's at, or it increases maybe $10, $20, $30 while you're still profitable, keep the campaign on 100%.
Yeah. Yep. And that's really the moral of all of this. Like, all these matter 100%. But even if your cost per lead's like on paper terrible and just way higher than you would think, if you're still running a profitable campaign where you're making more money from it, than you're putting in, ideally, around a 3x, it's okay. You can sleep good at night. Don't stress. It's fine. Again, this metric is worth tracking, but it is more of a vanity metric compared to the other ones. 100%.
Yep, 100%.
Cool. Let's take a look at. I believe it's CPM. Yep. Okay, so CPM. This would be the cost per 1,000 impressions. So this is literally how much you are paying Facebook in a dollar amount for 1,000 people to see your ad. Yep. So it's literally the cost of getting the awareness and having people see it. So again, this is another interesting one that we track and one that's worth checking because it is a cost. We want to keep it low as possible. Now, Colin, what is your take on CPMs? And like, how important is it? Is it more of a vanity metric like cost per lead, or is it something much more important? Go ahead.
I mean, this is literally the cost it costs your company to get in front of people, right? So if you have we've seen accounts, we've gotten into, and their CPMs are $400. So it costs them $400 to get in front of 1,000 people. We get into that, ad account, and we get it down to $12 to get in front of 1,000 people. So think about how much lower your cost per lead, how much lower every single other cost is going to be through your marketing campaigns if you can just get this one single metric down. So this really comes down to how good the creative is.
In what way? What is good? What is good for someone watching this and just who might not know?
Yeah, it kind of just comes down to, if it's a video ad, does it have a good hook? That's the biggest thing on a video ad. If the hook is good, if it's fast paced, I think I said this on the last video, but the average consumer of Instagram is scrolling 256 feet, the same size as the Eiffel Tower every single day. So if you can get in front of those people as many times as possible, which is also coming down to the CPM, then it has so much effect on every single metric.
And that's true too, because like let's say in that situation where like someone's paying what were you saying? We've seen at like $800 CPMs or something too high. Something
Yeah, I'd say a little bit lower than 800, 400, around 400.
400. Okay, I was gonna say 800 is pretty insane.
Yeah,
So yeah,
400,
400.
and 400 was a shock to me
Yeah.
because before
Okay.
that, it has been raising. This is the one metric that you'll see a lot of marketers kind of underlook. They don't really talk about this. And this is the one metric that has been raising over the years. In 2017, you could get $2 CPM.
Yeah,
So
that's another good point, and it's still likely going to keep going up.
raising
However, that
100%.
that doesn't mean you can't have low CPM and strive to have low CPMs. And like you were saying, the best way to do this is have good messaging in your ad creatives. That's just how Facebook works.
One thing we've even
2026.
seen, with our accounts is AI creatives with clinics and stuff like this, whether it's a static image or a video ad with an AI creator or AI UGC, they are getting the best cost per thousand impressions so far
Yeah.
I've seen since 2017. Like
Yeah.
we're getting as low as $12 sometimes, which is amazing.
Yeah, AI. We'll have to make a whole nother video on that. AI UGC though, that's definitely the what we've seen is the best CPMs.
Yeah, if you guys want one secret about CPMs, it's probably using a little bit of AI in your creatives for a
Yeah,
fact.
honestly, good point there. All right, on to the next one. So click through rate.
Yep.
All right, another very interesting one. So again, Colin, how much of a vanity metric, if at all, just is click through rate, and where would you say like a healthy KPI click through rate is for again the average clinic running ads? What should they be targeting there?
Yeah, so from an ad to a funnel, you want to be going around I'd say 2% and above click through rate. You want to be above that. So that means 2% of people that are seeing your video or your static image are clicking on it and
Yep.
going through the funnel. So yeah, I would say 100%, at least 2% and better. We've seen some campaigns that we've run with 8% click through rate on the single ad, and it kind of comes down. So if we're talking about single ads, you would want a winning ad to be probably above 4% click through
Yeah.
rate, and then as on the campaign level, in total, probably around like a 2 to 4
Like,
click through rate.
And again, for anyone less technical here, the campaign level, what Colin means is that's the average click through rate of all of the ads that you're running combined into one. So around 2%, yeah, that's standard. I would say that's a fair KPI to go
I would
for.
say keep that campaign on and let it, do
Yeah.
its thing, keep spending on that campaign. Yep.
And it's funny too because this is direct proof of why CPMs do matter, because we're out here telling you, we do this for a living, that a 2% click through rate is actually like solid. There's no reason to stress about that. So that literally means of 100 people seeing your ad, only 2 are going to click. And who knows, how many are going to actually convert. There's other metrics for that. We're going to keep going into this. But this is why you want the lowest costs per your ads getting out there, your CPMs, because your click through rate is probably going to be 2 to 5% if you're doing well.
Yep.
Right. 100%.
Exactly. Lead to booking
Lead
rate.
to booking rate. Okay. So this is pretty self-explanatory. This is just the percentage of leads that you get that actually book into your calendar for a consultation. So Colin, I'm going to have you take it away. Obviously this can very much vary on what type of funnel, what type of flow you're running. For some people, they're just going to have them go straight to a calendar and book. People have different processes. So this is one of those metrics that is pretty dependent on what type of process you're running when it comes to how you handle your lead follow-up and what they go through. But what would you say? I mean, how do you feel about this stat? Like how important is it, and what does it really indicate, like this metric?
This indicates, I'd say, how good your funnel is, how good the flow is. It can depend on a lot of things too, kind of, how much friction you're putting into it, all of that. Are they filling out an application or are they going direct to a calendar? Some of our clinics are going direct to a calendar. Some do want them to fill out a whole application to make it easier for either the provider or the NP getting on the phone.
Do you want to show, just so people watching this can see? I don't know if you have like a client's funnel up, so just so they can see what we mean by direct to a calendar. here, because I know, guys, we get technical. We like to get in the weeds, but just so you see what we mean, I think I saw weekend MP at the top.
Yeah.
Cool. So here's one. So here is a recent funnel that we ran. So this is where people go to. This when someone clicks on your ad, this is where they go to afterwards. So again, lead to booking rate does measure how successful the funnel is. The funnel is what you're looking at here, is the series of pages they go through. So for most clinics, I mean, we recommend just having a calendar there and letting them book, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what you've seen work the best. That's what's working the best now.
That's working great. Now it kind of depends on, what you're offering. This is a little bit easier for TRT, and then for Jeremy to have the consultation after they book. If you're doing GLP-1s or something like that, then maybe you want to take them through a couple questions before they can book, or you take them to questions after they pick a time. But it always comes down to, I would say for majority of people either starting their clinic or that want to just get a lot of bookings, always go just direct.
Yeah, exactly. All right, this is the best one. I would say this is the only one that gives CAC a run for its money, and it might be more important. In fact, it is. It just is. Now, Colin, ROAS. So why is this the most important metric of all, and what does it really mean? Because a lot of people are probably like, what is a ROAS?
Yeah.
Besides
our nerd terms and fun words, it means return on ad spend, right? So this is really, how much money you're making based on how much money you're putting back into Google, Meta, TikTok, wherever you're marketing, right? So this is the most important metric of all in terms of running a campaign, running a business, and marketing it. What is your return on ad spend?
Yeah, I mean, it's huge, and again, a big thing for this, like what it says where on that slide where it says what it means, literally, for every dollar you spend on ads, how many dollars come back? So this trumps every single metric we just talked about. Again, who gives a shit? Excuse my language. If your cost per lead is $400, but your ROAS is 10, that is a phenomenal advertising campaign. So all of these other metrics we went through, again, they're worth tracking. It helps you identify what the bottleneck is and how to run ads more efficiently. But if your ROAS is good, I'm not touching the campaign. I'm not. I'm going to let it rip, and I'm going to let it keep collecting money. And if anything, I'm going to spend more money on ads when I know there's good ROAS. Very good rule of thumb. So that's a big one. Now, CAC to LTV. So this is a very important ratio that we wanted to bring up, and it is a bit similar to ROAS, frankly. Now, Colin, just how would you say? I mean, CAC to LTV. We touched upon it at the start of the video here of the podcast. What does this really mean exactly? And again, why is it about as important as ROAS, I would say?
Yeah, so for clinics like a TRT clinic, right, it's going to be kind of hard to find their ROAS at the beginning of running a campaign, especially if you're running more of a subscription-based model, especially, this could be for your GLP-1, this could be for any subscription-based model. And it's kind of hard to figure out what your ROAS is, and that's where this comes into play. So what is your cost to acquire a customer, and then what is the lifetime value of that customer, right? So this is why we always like to kind of push our partners to do like a high-ticket version, or at least have that option where somebody can do a 3-month, a 6-month, a 12-month, anything, whether it's, TRT, GLP-1s, any type of peptide. That's always some of the best options, just so you can recruit that cash as fast as possible. And then you can actually, know what your ROAS is. But for, somebody that is doing only subscription-based, this matters a lot. So, if somebody's going to be with you for 2 years, spending $250, that is going to add up, right? Yeah.
It's funny. I mean, this ratio is even more important than ROAS, I would say, because, your ROAS can be, if your ROAS is one that's bad, you got to make changes 100,000%. But if your ROAS is 1 and your ratio of CAC to LTV is like a 3 because your patients are staying with you for so long, I mean, it's still worth running that that campaign is still seriously benefiting you, frankly. So just again, and this is just proof why marketing, especially for a clinic, you are playing the long game here, and you really want to make sure your retention's dialed in and you're making the most of every patient that comes your way. So guys, again, the moral of the story is if your campaign is making you money, you have a good ROAS, or heck, maybe your ROAS isn't even great, but your lifetime value is so good, it doesn't even matter. Keep running ads, make your ads better, understand what a metric is not a KPI, and know when to attack it. But if you are making more money from ads than you're losing, that is fantastic. Put more money into your campaign, scale it, get more patients in. Of course, as you do so, you want to refine your systems. You want to make sure you can handle that new lead flow and everything there. But, more of the story, this is what matters the most. Now, Colin, any final takeaways at all, or how do you feel about any last words? Any last words for the audience?
Yeah, run more ads. Run more ads.
I couldn't have said it any better. I could not have said it any better myself. So, guys, that concludes the podcast for today. So, if anyone wants help, with your ad campaign, really with anything patient acquisition, so we exclusively work with clinics, whether telehealth, brick and mortar, as long as you're an established clinic or someone serious about really growing yours and you're in those early stages, just go ahead and look at the description under this video and book a call below, and we'll see exactly how we can help. But otherwise, just hope we were able to provide some value for you today, and we'll keep them coming.